Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. And you'll never miss a story again. I never thought I'd leave the city we built our life in. The apartment with the creaky wooden floor and the chipped paint on the windowsill. The park 2 blocks down where we used to sit with coffee and talk about the future. The little Italian place with the overpriced wine we could never quite afford, but always went to on anniversaries. But when someone pulls the floor out from under you, staying just feels like floating over a hole, pretending you don't see it. We were engaged, Rachel and I, together for 5 years, engaged for one. We had a wedding date circled in red ink on the calendar. May 14th. It was going to be outside under a white arch with soft lights and her favorite flowers, white dahlias. I still remember helping her build the Pinterest boards. Then came the conversation. It was after dinner, just a normal Tuesday. She set her fork down and looked at me with that expression you never forget. Distant eyes, calm voice. "I think we should take a break," she said like she was canceling a brunch, not our future. "I just need some space to figure things out." I thought I misunderstood her. I asked if something happened, if I did something. "But no," she said. "You've done nothing wrong. I just need to think." Then, slowly, the truth began to unravel over the next few days. A coworker. His name was Derek. I had met him once at one of her office parties. He was new, young, charming, sharp-dressed. Rachel had mentioned he was funny and brilliant at his job, but I hadn't thought much of it. I trusted her. I believed in what we had, what we were building. After she asked for the break, photos started to show up. Mutual friends who followed both of us on social media would message me, asking if we were still together because they saw her out with him. Grabbing drinks, laughing together, too close at a party. I never asked her about it. I didn't want to know. I didn't want confirmation. I packed up my life in 4 weeks, left the apartment, canceled the lease, called off the wedding. I quit my job and moved to a new city, one I had only visited once, a few years back on a weekend trip. Somewhere with different weather, unfamiliar streets, and absolutely no memories of her. The first few months were numb. I got a job in marketing at a small startup. It wasn't my dream gig, but it paid enough to get by. I rented a studio on the top floor of a quiet building. I kept to myself. Woke up, worked, went home, watched TV, repeated. The only variation was the occasional walk through the nearby park with a coffee in hand. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the loneliness. It was the silence. No apologies. No explanations. Just gone. As if what we had never really mattered. She never contacted me, never said goodbye. I waited for something, an email, a voicemail, a letter, nothing. Then, one day, she messaged me. It was short, just, "Hey, can we talk?" I stared at the screen, heart racing, palms sweaty. For a moment, I considered replying. Then, I turned off my phone and went for a walk instead. But that was only the beginning. She started following me on social media again. I noticed her name pop up in my stories. Then came the mutual friends, reaching out asking if I was okay, telling me she had been asking about me, that she missed me, that she had made a mistake. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, not out of spite, but because I had spent months trying to rebuild a version of myself without her. And letting her back in would have shattered all the fragile progress I had made. But she didn't stop. She began liking old photos, commenting subtly on posts. Then, one day I saw her in person. I was walking out of my building, late for work, when I saw a familiar figure across the street. Rachel, standing there, holding a coffee. Our eyes met for just a second before I quickly turned and walked the other way. My chest felt tight. Not with love, with dread. She didn't chase me. But the next day I found a note slipped under my door. "I'm sorry, I just want to talk." I tore it up. It felt cruel. Maybe it was. But I had learned that healing sometimes requires distance. And not all relationships deserve a final conversation. Still, the guilt followed me, especially when our mutual friends started taking sides. Some said I should hear her out. Others said they didn't know what to believe anymore. A few simply vanished from my life, too unsure where they stood. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't always come with fire and fury. Sometimes it's slow, quiet, like rain leaking through a ceiling until one day the roof caves in. And when you finally escape, soaked and bruised, people ask why you won't go back inside. I didn't owe her a reunion. I didn't owe her closure. I owed myself peace. I kept my head down, focused on work. I even made a few new friends, started going to a book club every other Wednesday. It was nice, nothing dramatic, just small, steady moments of reclaiming life. Then, one afternoon, while walking through the park I'd come to love, I heard my name. James. I turned slowly, and there she was, Rachel, standing a few feet away, wearing a coat I had bought her last Christmas. Hair shorter now, eyes wide, uncertain, like a ghost that wasn't supposed to be real. I didn't say anything. She stepped forward, hands wringing nervously. I didn't think I'd run into you here. I didn't even know if you still lived in the city. I stayed silent. I've been trying to talk to you, she said. Not to hurt you. I know I did that already. I needed to explain. I looked at her then, really looked. Not through the lens of who she used to be, but as a stranger. Someone I didn't recognize anymore. Rachel, I said, my voice steady, I can't do this right now. I understand, she whispered. If you ever want to talk, I don't, I said, not harshly, just honestly. She blinked. Hurt flickered in her eyes. I know I don't have the right to ask anything of you, she said, but I made a mistake. I let something happen that I didn't understand until it was too late. I took a deep breath, looked around at the people walking dogs, pushing strollers, sipping lattes. Life going on. I spent months wondering what I did wrong, I told her, tearing myself apart, thinking maybe I was the problem. Maybe if I'd just been more something. You weren't, she said quickly. You were everything. I was the one who, but you didn't tell me, I continued. You just walked away. You let me sit in that apartment alone while you figured things out with someone else. I wasn't with him, she said, and for the first time there was something raw in her voice. Not at first. I was confused, lost. I didn't know what I wanted. You didn't want me, I interrupted. And that's okay, really. But now I don't want this. Not even closure. I've made peace with not knowing. She looked down. And for the first time, I felt something close to sympathy. Not forgiveness. Not even understanding. Just a sense that maybe we were both broken people trying our best and failing in different ways. I'm sorry, she said again softly. I nodded once, then walked away. As I did, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. It wasn't the perfect ending, but it was enough. And sometimes enough is all you need. After that day in the park, I thought things would get easier, that walking away would bring finality, that the quiet would feel different, less like an empty room and more like a deep breath. But grief has its own strange rhythm. It doesn't listen to logic. It lingers, soft and persistent, in the corners of your day. I didn't hear from Rachel again. No more notes, no messages, no sudden appearances outside my building. And yet, for weeks after, I kept looking over my shoulder. It was like some part of me expected her to return again, to apologize more, to try harder. Or maybe that part of me just wanted confirmation that I wasn't completely invisible to her. But the truth is, she was gone. And for the first time, I felt something close to control. I dove into my routine. I became intentional about healing. Not the passive kind where time simply dulls the pain, but the kind that demands presence. I started therapy, began journaling again. I even deleted our old photos from my phone, something I'd put off for far too long. It wasn't about erasing her. It was about making room for something new. The book club I'd joined became more than just a distraction. It became a community. There was this guy, Marcus, a retired teacher who always had wild theories about the endings. and Sarah, who worked in publishing and had a way of reading between the lines that made you see the story and yourself differently. Being around them helped. They didn't know me as half of James and Rachel. They just knew me, and that was enough. Still, not everyone let the past go so easily. One Friday evening, I got a call from Josh, an old college friend who had stayed close with both of us. We hadn't talked in months. "Hey man, how are you holding up?" he asked, like no time had passed. I told him I was fine, that things were moving forward. He hesitated. "So, I saw Rachel the other day. She came by our mutual friend's birthday thing." I didn't say anything. "She asked about you, said she wanted to reach out but didn't want to cross any lines." "She already did," I said quietly. Josh sighed. "Look, I'm not trying to get involved. I'm just saying she seems different, like she's trying. And I know what she did was awful, but maybe just hearing her out." I cut him off. "Josh, you weren't there when I had to cancel the wedding. When I packed up 5 years of my life into boxes alone. When I sat in silence, wondering what I missed. So, no, I'm not going to hear her out. Because I've done enough listening to someone who couldn't be honest with me when it mattered most." He was quiet for a while, then said, "I get it." "I do. Just don't let bitterness define you." It stung. That word, bitterness. As if protecting myself was somehow a failure of character. But I stayed calm. "I'm not bitter," I said. "I'm healing. There's a difference." After that, I stopped answering calls from mutual friends who only wanted to talk about Rachel. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate them. I just couldn't keep explaining my decision to people who weren't in the room when everything fell apart. The hardest thing about setting boundaries is the loneliness that follows. You want people to support you, to say, "You're doing the right thing," even when it's hard. But sometimes the people around you don't understand your pain because they didn't feel it themselves. And that's okay. That's what I kept telling myself. Over and over. One night, maybe 2 months after the park encounter, I sat on the balcony of my apartment watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. It was quiet, except for the occasional hum of traffic. I thought about the life I'd almost lived, the wedding that never happened, the house we never bought, the kids we never named. And then I thought about the life I was living now. It was smaller, simpler, but it was mine. I had started sketching again, something I hadn't done since college. I bought a used bike and started riding through the city on weekends, discovering little pockets of charm I'd never noticed before. I went to local cafes and wrote short stories on napkins just because it felt good to create something. I even met someone. Her name was Elise. We met at a Saturday morning book club meetup that had spilled over into brunch. She was quiet, thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor and the kind of kindness that didn't demand attention. We talked about books first, then music, then slowly about life. I told her pieces of my story, not all at once, not too much, and she never pushed. It wasn't love, not yet, maybe not even soon, but it was something honest. And after what I'd been through, honesty felt like gold. Then, just as I was beginning to feel truly stable, Rachel reached out again. It was a letter, handwritten, no return address. Just my name on the envelope and handwriting I'd once recognized in an instant. I debated opening it, left it on the counter for 3 days untouched. But curiosity, maybe even a need for closure, won out. The letter was 5 pages long. She wrote about our life together, about how safe she felt with me, about how over time she began to confuse safety with stagnation and thought something new meant something better. She admitted she had fallen for Derek, but realized too late that it wasn't love, it was escapism. She said she never stopped loving me, that losing me was the wake-up call she didn't know she needed, that she had been in therapy, that she wasn't writing to get me back, but just to say the words she should have said long ago. I read the letter once, then again, and then a third time. And then I burned it in a metal dish on my balcony. Not out of anger, not as some grand symbolic gesture, but because I didn't want to carry it with me. I had carried enough already. Grief, I realized, isn't just mourning what was lost. It's also mourning what never got to be. The apologies never said in time. The dreams you never got to chase. The conversations that end before they finish. And healing isn't clean. It's messy. It's full of second thoughts and almosts. But it's real. And real healing means choosing yourself, even when it's hard, especially then. The next morning, I walked through the park, the same one where I had last seen Rachel. The leaves were starting to change. There was a crispness in the air. I stopped at a bench near the fountain and sat down with a coffee. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't think about what I had lost. I thought about what I had survived. And that felt like a kind of victory. Winter came slowly that year, like it was unsure of itself. The air turned cold, but not bitter. The city didn't seem to freeze over the way it had in the past. It softened. Or maybe I was just seeing things differently. A lot had changed by then. Work had picked up. I'd been promoted to lead a new project, something that gave me a fresh sense of purpose. I wasn't just passing time anymore. I was participating in it, building something, day by day. Elise and I kept spending time together. It wasn't a whirlwind, and that's exactly what I liked about it. There were no grand declarations or dramatic gestures, just real moments. Like talking over warm soup in a quiet cafe while snow fell outside, or walking through the holiday market and laughing at ornaments that looked nothing like the celebrities they were supposed to resemble. She asked about Rachel only once. We were sitting in my apartment, a movie playing in the background. She glanced at the small sketch I'd done of a winter tree on my fridge and asked who it reminded me of. And I told her the truth. I used to be engaged, I said. She didn't flinch, just listened. She left. It was messy, but I think I needed it to happen. I didn't want it to, but I don't think I would have found this peace without walking through that fire. She nodded. I think people come into our lives to teach us something, and sometimes they have to leave to finish the lesson. It was a quiet response, gentle. It sat with me. By the time the holidays rolled around, I found myself genuinely smiling again, not forcing it, not faking it for the sake of friends or family, but real smiles, the kind that happen when your chest lightens without warning. There was one more moment I want to tell you about, one last unexpected chapter. It was early January. The city had just gotten its first real snowfall. Thick, powdery snow blanketed everything, and the world looked newly painted. I had taken the morning off work and decided to visit the park again, my little sanctuary. I didn't expect to see Rachel, but there she was, sitting on the same bench we'd once shared during a fall morning years ago. She was bundled in a coat and scarf, a small notebook in her hands. She looked up, and we locked eyes before I could pretend I hadn't seen her. I could have turned away, could have left without a word, but something in me said it was time. I approached slowly, not out of anger, not even out of curiosity, just acceptance. "Hi," I said. She looked surprised, but not unwelcome to the moment. "Hi." There was a long silence, not heavy, just thoughtful. "I wasn't expecting to see you," she said. "Same." She closed the notebook and looked up at me. "How have you been?" "Good," I said honestly. "Better." She smiled softly, almost wistfully. "I'm glad." Another pause. The kind that makes you feel like time slows just a little. "I wanted to say thank you," she said finally. I blinked. For what? For not yelling at me. For not dragging everything through the mud. I didn't deserve your silence, but I think I needed it. I sat down beside her on the bench, but not too close. "I didn't stay silent to hurt you," I said. "I stayed silent to protect myself. I had to let go of who I was with you, and that meant letting go of the need for closure from you." "I know," she said. "I didn't back then, but I do now." She glanced at the snow, watching it fall in quiet flakes onto her boots. "I was lost," she said. "I thought something new would fix the restlessness I felt, but it didn't. It only broke something good I didn't know how to value." I nodded, not in agreement, but in acknowledgement. There was nothing left to fix, no resolution that would change what had happened. But her words no longer twisted a knife. They just were. "You know," I said, "I used to think closure came from conversations, from sitting down and talking everything out until it made sense. But I've learned it comes from accepting that some people will never understand the damage they caused in time to stop it." She was quiet for a long time. then whispered, I hope you find someone who understands it before it hurts. I already have, I said. That surprised her. I could see it in her expression, but she smiled. I'm happy for you. I believed her. We didn't say much after that. Just watched the snow for a while. It felt like the last page of a book. Not with a grand finale, but a quiet closing of a chapter. Eventually, I stood. I should go, she nodded. Me too. We walked in opposite directions without a hug, without a promise to stay in touch, and without any final words. And that was the most peaceful ending I could have asked for. Back at home, I told Elise about it. I didn't give details, just said, I ran into her. It's over. Really over. She understood without asking more. Weeks passed, then months. The seasons changed again. I kept sketching, kept working, kept showing up to the little life I had built. And every time I passed the bench in the park, it didn't sting. It didn't even feel like it belonged to someone else anymore. It just felt like part of the path I had taken to get here. Here, where the air feels different, where peace doesn't feel like emptiness. It feels like space, room to grow, room to breathe, room to be. Sometimes people break your heart because they don't know how to hold it. Sometimes they leave because they think they're saving you from the worst version of themselves. And sometimes they come back when it's too late. But healing means not waiting for them to get it. It means deciding you deserve better, even if you have to start from scratch. I'm still learning, still growing, still making mistakes, but I'm moving forward, without resentment, without bitterness, just boundaries and a quiet belief in something better. And in the end, that's what matters most. That you keep going, that you choose yourself, that you keep your heart open, not to the past, but to the life still waiting to be lived. And so I do. One step, one day, one breath at a time.